What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with Tech Daily. So a couple months ago, we checked out the Elephone S8, which was a super inexpensive smartphone that you guys seemed really interested in. And it was something we don't really see too often here in the US. There are a lot of awesome international budget devices out there that I unfortunately don't always get a chance to see. But luckily, the folks over at GearBest sent over two more for us to check out. These are the Oukitel Mix 2 and Vernee Mix 2. And yes, that Mix 2 naming scheme tends to be attached to a lot of these Chinese devices. There's a Xiaomi Mi Mix 2, Ulefone Mix 2, Doogee Mix 2, but similar names aside, both of these devices here are really solid smartphones at great prices. And if you want to check them out or purchase one for yourself or maybe see all the great deals GearBest has to offer, I'll leave some links down below. To help keep things straight, the Oukitel Mix 2 is dressed in pink and red on the left, and the Vernee Mix 2 is in blue on the right. And I'll just get the prices out of the way here since I know that's what a lot of you guys are interested in. The Oukitel Mix 2 is actually on sale right now for $199, about 30% off. And the Vernee Mix 2 comes in at either $159 or $199, depending on the specs you go with. So both of these devices are really pretty affordable. Before we go ahead and start picking apart their similarities and differences, which there are quite a few, even though these phones look almost identical, I'll go ahead and show you guys what all comes inside the boxes. With the Oukitel, you get a nice crystal clear TPU case to protect the phone, along with an international wall adapter and micro USB cable for charging, as well as a SIM ejector tool and a small collection of paperwork and instructions. The Vernee also comes with a decent crystal clear case, and in addition to the ones already installed on the phone, you also get extra front and rear glass protectors. And you get the same international wall plug and micro USB cable for charging, and a couple pieces of paper with a SIM ejector tool. So like I mentioned, side by side, both of these phones look very, very similar, and it's difficult to tell them apart, but there are some distinct differences in their build material, specs, and features that might be a deciding factor in choosing one over another. They both have the same sharp rectangular shape with very thin edges along the top and sides with a bit of a chin to facilitate a front-facing camera on the bottom. And around back, they have identical rear glass, slightly different rear camera setups, and a fingerprint sensor. Now, the fingerprint sensor is in a really good spot on both phones. It's just above the middle, and even though these devices are a little bit bigger, it's very comfortable to reach. On the Oukitel, the sensor is very quick. There's hardly any delay at all from when the phone recognizes you and vibrates to when the device is unlocked. However, on the Vernee, for whatever reason, it does feel a bit slower. There's a more noticeable delay in unlocking, but in general, it's fast enough to where it's not really an issue. The sides on the Oukitel are glass, and on the Vernee, they're aluminum, so the Oukitel is a little more grippy and feels a little more premium in the hand, but the Vernee is probably a little more durable with that metal. And both devices do have a single downward-facing speaker, the micro USB port on the bottom, and a headphone jack up top. So no dongles or adapters or any of that garbage, just a good old headphone jack as it should be. Along with the differences in material, you might be able to tell that the all-glass Oukitel there on the right is just a little bit thicker than the Vernee. But besides that, the volume and power buttons on both devices are essentially the same there on the sides. I think really the main attraction for both of these phones has to be the displays. If you want to be as specific as possible, the Oukitel has a 5.99-inch display and the Vernee has an even 6-inch display, both at a full HD resolution of 2160 by 1080, both at that 18:9 aspect ratio, and both look really nice from top to bottom. While there aren't any curved edges or anything like that, the slim bezels and sleek design get the screen as close to the edge as possible while still being comfortable in the hand, which is particularly important since these are 6-inch devices basically, and while you do get some letterboxing in video, you can pull it into full screen. But no matter how you view whatever content you want to watch, everything looks crisp and colorful, and I really don't have any complaints at all with either phone. Spec-wise, we do have a couple differences to note here. The Oukitel Mix 2 comes with a Helio P25 octa-core 2.3 GHz processor, 6 GB of RAM, 64 GB of internal storage, and a 4080 mAh battery. While the Vernee Mix 2 ships with an octa-core 2.5 GHz processor, either 4 GB or 6 GB of RAM depending on the model, 64 GB of internal storage, and a huge 4200 mAh battery. And fortunately, both phones do support dual SIMs and expandable storage via an SD card, which are both some nice options to have. They ship with Android 7.0, and I can't say whether or not they'll get Oreo anytime soon or even at all, and the Oukitel Mix 2 seems to have a Samsung-esque icon pack for whatever reason, but either way, both devices have a pretty bare-bones software experience all in all. There's virtually no bloatware, they're unlocked international devices, so there's no carrier crap. They both offer a pretty solid and smooth user experience with some decent specs to back it up. Now, one area I think both of these phones could use some improvements in is with their cameras, and that generally seems to be the theme with a lot of these kinds of smartphones. With both devices, you get an 8 megapixel front camera in that bottom right corner position, which can be a little awkward, but in the Oukitel you do get a front flash. On the back, both smartphones rock a dual lens setup with some differences in specs, but both phones are capable of shooting HDR, 4K video, and have some manual controls and adjustments. Pictures and video on both devices look okay. I mean, they're definitely usable, and I think the Oukitel does look quite a bit better, but considering how good a lot of other smartphone cameras are, the camera capabilities on these devices in particular do fall a bit flat, which is kind of unfortunate. Some other things to note: even with the slight differences in batteries, I could get about 4.5 hours of screen on time across both devices, which isn't too bad at all. And while these devices are international unlocked phones, in the US I was limited to only 3G on select networks, which is something to consider if you're thinking about using these devices in the States. All in all though, considering that both of these phones are basically $200 or less, I was really surprised with a lot of the aspects of these devices. The build quality for both of them is really nice, the screens look great overall, the internal specs are very capable for casual day-to-day use, and with devices like these on the market, it kind of makes you reconsider shelling out $800 or $900 on a smartphone. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this sort of comparison and overview of the two phones. Let me know what you think of these devices in the comments below. Also, be sure to follow Tech Daily on Twitter and subscribe to the Tech Daily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.